My name is Lena, and for 50 years, my life in Autumn Creek was as predictable as the changing leaves on the maple trees lining our main street. Every morning, the scent of fresh baked bread from Miller's Bakery would drift through my kitchen window, mingling with the crisp, clean air that always promised another quiet day. I lived in the same little farmhouse where my parents had raised me, a place filled with the ghosts of laughter and whispered secrets. Our town, nestled deep in the heart of rural America, was a mosaic of familiar faces, comforting routines, and stories passed down through generations. We celebrated the annual Harvest Festival with homemade pies and bluegrass music, and mourned our losses with casseroles and shared silences, gathering at the old stone church or the community hall. The seasons cycled, bringing snow-dusted quiet winters, vibrant springs bursting with dogwood blooms, and lazy, sun-drenched summers spent on porch swings. It was a good life, a simple life, and I never imagined it could be anything else. Never felt the need for it to be. Then came that autumn afternoon, a day painted in shades of gray and dampness, with rain falling like a forgotten melody. The sky was a vast canvas of muted tones, and the air hung heavy with the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves. I was in my parlor, a cozy room with mismatched antique furniture and stacks of well-loved books, mending a tear in an old quilt my grandmother had made, a patchwork of faded calico and homespun wool, each square holding its own memory. It was the kind of quiet task that filled my afternoons, a comforting ritual. A sudden, insistent knocking echoed through the house, a sound so unexpected it made me jump. No one ever just knocked in Autumn Creek. People called ahead or just walked in if they were close friends, their familiar voices drifting through the screen door. This knock was formal, firm, alien. I walked to the door, a knot of mild curiosity and slight apprehension tightening in my stomach. Through the wavy glass pane, distorted by the rain, I saw a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, perhaps in his late 30s or early 40s, with a kind but tired face, his dark hair a little disheveled from the rain, and he held a worn leather briefcase clutched tight against his chest. His posture was stiff, almost formal, a stark contrast to the relaxed gait of our townsfolk. When I opened the door, a gust of cool, damp air swirled into the warmth of my home, bringing with it the sharp scent of wet leaves and distant wood smoke. He offered a polite, somewhat hesitant smile, his eyes, a deep shade of brown, scanning my face with an unreadable intensity. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice betraying a hint of caution, a slight tremor of unease. He shifted his weight, rain dripping from the brim of his fedora onto my porch. "My name is Thomas Albright, and I believe we might be related." My brow furrowed, a frown deepening between my eyebrows. Related? In Autumn Creek, I knew every branch of my family tree, every distant cousin, every once-removed aunt, or so I thought. His claim felt like an anomaly, a rogue thread in the tightly woven fabric of my ancestry. He must have seen the skepticism, the outright confusion in my eyes, because he quickly continued, his voice a low, steady rumble. "I assure you, there's no mistake. My mother, she passed away recently. Her name was Martha Hastings, and she was your great aunt, Martha Hastings." The name hung in the air, foreign and yet strangely resonant, like a half-forgotten tune on an old radio. I'd never heard of a Martha in our immediate family line. My parents, my grandparents, they'd spoken of everyone, every cousin, every distant relative, recounting tales of picnics, squabbles, and holiday gatherings, but never a Martha. "I'm sorry," I began, my hand still resting lightly on the doorknob, ready to close it. "I think there might be a mistake. I don't have a great-aunt Martha." Thomas's smile faltered slightly, a shadow crossing his face, but his gaze remained earnest, almost pleading. "I assure you, there's no mistake. My mother, she passed away recently, and she left behind a rather significant estate. A house, actually, and a considerable sum of money. She apparently died without any direct heirs, but her will specifically mentions her estranged family. Your family, Lena." My mind reeled. An estranged great-aunt, an estate. It sounded like something out of a novel, a plot twist too dramatic for the quiet rhythm of my life. Not a Tuesday afternoon in Autumn Creek. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents, official-looking papers, yellowed and brittle with age, some stamped with faded notary seals, and a neatly folded letter, its edges soft from handling. "These are copies of her will and some family records tracing her lineage. And this," he said, handing me the letter, his fingers brushing mine, cool and damp. "This was addressed to the Hastings family, Autumn Creek, found among her personal effects. My mother hoped it would find its way to you one day, a final message across the years." I took the letter, my fingers tracing the elegant script on the envelope. It felt heavy, not just with its physical weight, but with the weight of an untold story, a lifetime of secrets. I looked at Thomas, then at the letter, then back at him, rain still falling steadily behind him. My quiet, predictable life had just taken an unexpected, irreversible turn. What do you think about this sudden reveal? Have you ever had a mysterious family secret come to light? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. The letter, penned in elegant, looping cursive that spoke of a refined hand, was dated almost 50 years ago. Its ink, though faded, was still legible, each word carrying a palpable emotion. Martha wrote of a profound sadness, a love lost to the rigid dictates of family pride, and a family torn apart by misunderstanding and unyielding tradition. She spoke of being cast out from Autumn Creek, of finding solace in solitude and creativity, building a new life far from the judgment that had driven her away. But even in her exile, she held on to a hope that one day her legacy, not just her material wealth, but her story, her heart, would find its way back to the family that had forgotten her. The house, she wrote, was her sanctuary, a place of peace and beauty, and she hoped it could become one for others, a true haven. My initial skepticism warred with a deep-seated curiosity, a burgeoning need to understand. Could this truly be real? A forgotten relative, a secret inheritance, a sprawling house I knew nothing about, all emerging from the mists of history? Autumn Creek was small, its memory long, but it held its secrets close, burying them under layers of polite silence and unspoken agreements. I decided to start there, in the quiet corners of our town, where memories lingered like dust motes in sunbeams, waiting for someone to stir them. My first stop was the town library, a quaint stone building dating back to the late 1800s, its facade adorned with intricate brickwork and a towering oak tree whose roots snaked under the foundation. Inside, it smelled of old books, polished wood, and faint lavender. Mrs. Gable, the librarian, a woman whose memory was sharper than any digital archive, her silver hair often adorned with a whimsical brooch, greeted me with a warm smile. "Lena, dear, what brings you in on such a dreary day? Planning a new garden, or perhaps a mystery novel?" I explained my unusual predicament, my voice hushed as if sharing a confidence, mentioning the name Martha Hastings. Mrs. Gable's eyes, usually twinkling with stories, grew distant, shadowed with a wistful memory. "Martha Hastings," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long, long time. There was talk back when I was just a girl, a Hastings girl, full of fire and dreams, who fell in love with the wrong kind of man. A man from out of town, a traveling salesman, I believe, with a charming smile and no roots. Her father, old Mr. Hastings, he was a proud man, a patriarch with an iron will, set in his ways. He forbade the match, and when she defied him, he disowned her, said she shamed the family name, brought scandal to their door. The pieces began to fall into place, forming a coherent, if heartbreaking, narrative. A forbidden love, a family rift so deep it had literally erased a person from our history, severing all ties. I spent hours sifting through old town records, meticulously examining yellowed census reports, dusty school yearbooks, and brittle local newspaper archives from the 1960s. Sure enough, there were fleeting mentions of Martha Hastings, a spirited young woman, known for her artistic talent and fiercely independent spirit, who had vanished from Autumn Creek sometime in the late 1960s. Her name simply stopped appearing in family obituaries or social columns. Her presence scrubbed from community life. It was as if she had never existed, a ghost haunting the margins of our town's collective memory. Next, I visited the county clerk's office, a small, bustling room filled with the rustle of papers, the click of typewriters, and the hum of fluorescent lights. Mr. Henderson, the long-serving clerk, a man whose glasses perpetually slipped down his nose, confirmed the existence of a substantial property outside of town, registered under the name Martha Albright, née Hastings. He showed me faded deeds and intricate property maps, detailing a vast tract of land, including a large old farmhouse on a prominent hill overlooking the winding creeks and fertile fields that gave Autumn Creek its name. It wasn't just a small plot. It was a significant holding, hundreds of acres, a testament to a quiet, prosperous life Martha had built for herself. My conversations with the town's elders added more color and texture to the faded portrait of Martha. Old Mr. Abernathy, who still ran the hardware store on Elm Street, remembered her as a firecracker, always sketching in a notebook, her eyes alight with dreams of a world beyond Autumn Creek. Mrs. Peterson, my grandmother's best friend, her memory sharp despite her 90 years, recalled hushed whispers of a dramatic argument that echoed through the Hastings farmhouse, a tearful departure in the dead of night, and the family's stern instruction to never speak her name again. They all corroborated the same story. Martha had been vibrant, defiant, and ultimately banished. As I walked home through the now settled rain, the air smelling of wet earth and pine, my boots crunching on the gravel path, I realized that my family had kept a monumental secret, a testament to a heartbreak so profound it had echoed through generations, finally reaching me, the last living relative, through a stranger at my door. The journey to Martha's property was like stepping into a forgotten landscape, a passage through time. Thomas drove, his rented sedan navigating a series of increasingly narrow, unpaved roads, the tires spitting gravel until the asphalt gave way entirely to a winding dirt path that burrowed deep into the countryside. The fields on either side stretched wide and green, kissed by the crisp autumn air, dotted with pumpkins awaiting harvest and scarecrows standing silent vigil. We passed an old, weathered barn, its red paint faded to a soft rose, its timbers groaning with age, and a cluster of ancient oak trees, their branches bare and gnarled against the slate-gray sky like skeletal hands reaching upwards. Finally, perched atop a gentle knoll, commanding a breathtaking view of the valley, stood the house. It was grander than I had imagined, a true Victorian dame in disrepair, its intricate gingerbread trim rotting in places, but still hinting at its former glory. It boasted a sprawling porch that sagged precariously in sections, its balusters broken and numerous windows that stared out like vacant eyes, reflecting the muted sky. Yet, even in its neglected state, with peeling paint and overgrown gardens, there was an undeniable elegance, a stoic beauty that spoke of a richer, more vibrant past. A small, overgrown orchard of apple and pear trees clung tenaciously to the hillside behind it, their gnarled branches reaching towards the sky like supplicants. The air around the house was still, heavy with the silence of decades, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the rustle of dry leaves. As we stepped onto the creaking porch, the floorboards groaning under our weight, I felt a strange sense of belonging, a whisper of connection to a woman I had never known. The front door, once a vibrant blue, was now a peeling teal, its paint flaking like old skin, but it swung open with surprising ease, as if it had been waiting for us, anticipating our arrival. Inside, the dust lay thick like a blanket, covering everything: antique furniture meticulously draped in white sheets, faded floral wallpaper peeling at the seams, and a grand staircase that spiraled upwards into shadow, its banister smooth beneath my tentative touch. The pervasive scent of age, of damp wood, forgotten dreams, and a faint hint of lavender potpourri filled the air, a sensory journey into the past. As we explored the silent rooms, Thomas, with a practiced ease that made me uneasy, began to assess the property, his eyes darting to water damage, structural weaknesses, and potential renovation costs. He muttered calculations about market values and return on investment, his words starkly practical in this ethereal setting. But my attention was drawn elsewhere. I felt Martha's presence, a quiet echo in the stillness, a sense of her lingering spirit. In what must have been her study, a cozy room with tall, narrow windows overlooking the picturesque orchard and the valley beyond, I ran my hand over a dusty wooden desk, its surface carved with delicate patterns. Tucked away in a hidden compartment, almost as if it were waiting specifically for me, I found a small, leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with a faded gold initial M. Its pages were filled with Martha's elegant script, her deepest thoughts, her profound loneliness, her enduring love for Autumn Creek, despite her banishment, and her profound regret over the family rift that had cost her so much. She wrote of her dream to transform her beloved home into a place of solace and opportunity for the children of the community, especially those who, like her, felt lost or overlooked, who needed a safe harbor. She envisioned a safe haven, a vibrant learning center, a place where young dreams could take root and blossom, where no child would ever feel forgotten. This discovery, her words in my hands, solidified everything, made it undeniably real. This wasn't just an inheritance. It was a legacy, a living purpose, a call to action stretching across decades. Hold on tight, because the best is yet to come, and you won't want to miss how this unfolds. Don't forget to subscribe for the full story. In the days that followed, Thomas's demeanor began to shift noticeably, like the changing currents of the creek. He was still polite, still seemingly helpful, but an undercurrent of impatience, almost urgency, started to show, sharpening the edges of his previously calm facade. He would call me incessantly, sometimes late into the evening, his questions always circling back to the market value of the property, the speed at which we could list it, and the potential cash payout. "Lena, we need to move on this quickly. The market is hot right now, especially for properties with this much land. We don't want to miss our window," he'd insist, his voice a little too smooth, a little too rehearsed. He often mentioned investments he needed to make, opportunities he couldn't afford to miss, painting a picture of a man on the cusp of a financial breakthrough. If only this inheritance could be expedited. I also noticed him taking private phone calls, stepping away into another room or out onto the porch, speaking in hushed, hurried tones about liquidity, settling debts, and getting out from under. My unease grew, slowly at first, then blossoming into full-blown suspicion. His initial narrative of simply trying to connect with his mother's family, of respecting her wishes, began to fray under the relentless pressure of his financial concerns. I started to do a little digging of my own, not through dusty town records this time, but through online public databases, a skill I'd picked up casually over the years. It wasn't hard to find. Thomas Albright had a history of financial troubles, a trail of bad decisions, a failed business venture in Florida involving a dubious real estate scheme, several outstanding debts with collection agencies, and even a minor bankruptcy filed a few years prior in a different state. The inheritance wasn't just a windfall for him. It was a lifeline, a desperate escape route from a past he clearly wanted to leave behind, a mountain of debt he sought to erase. He wasn't interested in Martha's legacy, only in its liquidation. His every action, every subtle pressure, every hushed phone call began to scream, "Quick cash." The turning point came when Aaron, the attorney handling Martha's estate, a kindly older gentleman with a gentle voice and sharp mind, called for a final meeting to read the official will and discuss the next steps. It was scheduled for a Monday morning in his cozy office downtown, filled with the comforting scent of old paper and leather. Thomas, surprisingly, seemed reluctant to attend, even agitated. He kept trying to steer the conversation with Aaron toward an immediate sale of the property, emphasizing the potential for lucrative development, the soaring value of land in our expanding county. But I was ready. I had spent countless hours poring over Martha's journal, understanding her heart, her vision, her profound desire to do good. The attorney began to read the will aloud in his quiet, measured voice, the only sound in the room besides the ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner. After outlining the substantial financial assets and the sale of various investments, he came to the core of Martha's legacy, the house. Item 4, Aaron read, pausing for emphasis. My primary residence, located on Albright Hill, along with the surrounding acreage, shall be transformed into the Martha Hastings Children's Haven. a sanctuary and educational center for orphaned and underprivileged children of Autumn Creek and surrounding communities. This project is to be overseen and managed by a direct descendant of the Hastings family, ensuring that my original family spirit of compassion and community endures. The initial endowment for the Haven's establishment and continued operation shall be drawn from my estate, with the remainder of my financial assets to be placed in a trust for its perpetual maintenance. A profound hush fell over the room. Thomas's face, usually so composed, went utterly pale, draining of all color. He shot me a furious, desperate glance, his eyes now devoid of their earlier charm, filled instead with a raw, desperate anger, like a cornered animal. He had underestimated Martha, the depth of her foresight, and he had certainly underestimated me, Lena, a quiet woman from Autumn Creek. He saw his escape route vanishing before his very eyes. I met his gaze steadily, my resolve firm. "Thomas," I said, my voice clear and firm, resonating with a newfound strength. "Martha's will is very specific. This isn't just about money. It's about a purpose, a legacy, a dream she nurtured for decades. My legacy now. I intend to honor her wishes. The house will become the children's haven, exactly as she envisioned." The air in the room crackled with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Thomas sputtered, his voice raspy. But the value. We could sell it for millions. Think of what we could do with that money directly. It could solve all your problems, Lena." I shook my head, my gaze unwavering. Martha already thought of that. She chose to give this, not sell it, and I'm going to make sure her choice is respected, not exploited. The attorney, Aaron, nodded subtly, a faint, approving gleam in his eyes. Thomas, seeing his plans unraveling, his desperate hope dissolving, finally slumped back in his chair, utterly defeated. The dream of quick cash had evaporated, replaced by the enduring power of a forgotten woman's compassion and a rediscovered family bond. The old house on Albright Hill, once a symbol of a forgotten past, of banishment and quiet sorrow, was transformed. It was a monumental undertaking, a project that took months of dedicated effort, but it became a labor of love for the entire community. The sagging porch was meticulously repaired, its new wood gleaming with fresh paint, ready to welcome visitors. The vacant windows were replaced with sparkling, energy-efficient panes, now inviting an abundance of light into every room, chasing away the shadows of the past. The overgrown orchard was pruned and revitalized, its ancient trees ready to bear fruit again, a symbol of renewed life. It was a long, arduous journey, filled with challenges and unexpected setbacks. But with the help of the Autumn Creek community, bolstered by Martha's incredibly generous financial endowment, the Martha Hastings Children's Haven rose from the dust, a beacon of hope perched majestically on the hill, overlooking the town. The inauguration day was a tapestry of joyful chaos, a vibrant celebration woven with laughter and goodwill. The sun, as if in approval, shone brightly, casting long, warm shadows across the newly manicured lawn. Children, their faces bright with anticipation and wonder, ran through the freshly painted hallways, their delighted laughter echoing where only silence had reigned for decades. The sweet scent of freshly baked cookies from the Haven's new state-of-the-art kitchen mingled with the earthy aroma of the surrounding fields and the faint perfume of late blooming flowers. Autumn Creek turned out in full force. Mrs. Gable, resplendent in a vibrant floral dress, Mr. Abernathy, his grizzled face creased with a proud smile. Mrs. Peterson, her eyes twinkling with a triumphant gleam, and countless others who had heard whispers of Martha's story now saw her legacy come to life before their very eyes. I stood on the renovated porch, looking out at the sea of smiling faces, feeling a profound sense of peace and deep fulfillment that settled in my bones. My life, once quiet and contained within the familiar boundaries of my farmhouse, had expanded in ways I never imagined possible. I had found a purpose, a deeper connection to my family, and a home that was no longer just mine, but belonged to everyone, a gift from a woman I had never met. I spoke to the gathered crowd, my voice thick with emotion, but clear and strong. For 50 years, a part of our family, a part of our history, was lost. Martha Hastings was cast out from Autumn Creek, but her spirit, her unwavering love for this community, never faded. This haven isn't just a building, it's a testament to second chances, to the boundless power of compassion, and to the enduring truth that even when we feel alone, we are always connected, bound by threads we cannot always see. Martha's wish was for this place to be a sanctuary, a place where every child feels loved, safe, and seen, a place to dream big. Today, we honor that wish, and in doing so, we heal an old wound in our town's heart. As I finished, I saw a woman in the crowd, her eyes wet with tears, but smiling. She was Mrs. Peterson, my grandmother's old friend. She winked at me, a silent acknowledgement that Martha's story finally had found its rightful, triumphant ending. I often walk through the haven now, my steps lighter, watching the children learn, play, and grow, their boundless energy filling the hollow spaces that once held so much quiet sadness. Their artwork adorns the walls, their projects fill the common rooms, and their happy chatter is the constant soundtrack of the house. I found a beautifully preserved, sepia-toned photograph of a young Martha, radiant and defiant, tucked away in her journal. She looks remarkably like me, with the same determined glint in her eyes, the same set to her jaw. I placed it in a place of honor in the haven's main hall, a silent guardian watching over the dreams she helped create. My quiet life in Autumn Creek was indeed changed forever by a stranger's knock. But it wasn't just a discovery of an inheritance. It was the discovery of a lost piece of myself, a connection to a fierce, loving woman who taught me that even in endings, new beginnings can bloom, more vibrant and meaningful than anything that came before. The rain still falls in Autumn Creek, washing over the town with its familiar rhythm, but now it feels less like a prelude to silence and more like a promise of life, of growth, of a future unfolding, bright and full of possibility. And I smile because I wasn't just finding a forgotten inheritance. I was finding my place in a home that Martha built for all of us. What do you think of Lena's journey and Martha's incredible legacy? Did this story move you? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring true stories.